Welcome, I'm your host, Malcolm Gallagher. From our BizVision studios in the UK, you're watching the Leadership Matters show on the BVTV network. I like meeting fellow consultants and coaches who are obvious thinkers, innovators, and they don't regurgitate same old, same old. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing someone who is not only a good strategist, but helps his clients through to execution of that strategy. In our new altered business world, change is inevitable, but change where and how? So let's go and find out as we meet the founder of Blackmore Four, Matthew Emerson. Welcome, Matthew.
Good morning, Malcolm. Thanks for making time to speak to me today.
Lovely to talk to you. Matthew, before we get into the meat of our meeting, I'm intrigued by the title of your business, Blackmore Four. Sounds the title for a great drama series, doesn't it? Hey, knock the crown out of Netflix. Tell me about the name, what you do, and who you do it for.
The name it comes from fairly humble background, but I'm pleased that it intrigues you. And if it does that, then it's probably serving its purpose. But when I founded the company, we were talking about what to call it, and I didn't want the company to be baked in my personal name, but I do live in a village called Blackmore, so there is some personal connection to that. The four, other than just sounding good, a lot of what we do and a lot of what we think about organizational effectiveness seems to come in fours. We don't structure everything in that way, but that just seems to happen. So the name sort of came together just like that. But I'm glad it
Hey, it's simple in the end, isn't it? Yeah, but I do agree with you on the four. We're the same with our balanced scorecard, four perspectives and so on. Now, I wanted to interview you because you have a special focus on business performance that I suggest are not considered by many growth-seeking companies, and that's organizational effectiveness. Tell us your thoughts about OE and give us an insight into your four components of it.
Yeah, so again, when we started thinking about how we package for simplicity our services, what we're really about, what we're trying to help these companies with, the labeling of organizational effectiveness is accurate in what we do. But as you say, there's never a simple top line that explains everything. What we found, myself and my colleagues, is that companies that are trying to grow or tackle some kind of significant change will dedicate resource and expertise to understand the market they're in and the products that they're providing, and that tangible relationship of we offer something to someone. The two more internal aspects of their success that are often overlooked are money. We're not specialists in finance, but cash flow is obviously important, and people, and the effectiveness of how they bring people together, organize them and lead them to fuel their growth and enable their growth. For us, that's vital. If you don't have effective leadership and organization of your people, and what we describe as our four aspects of organizational effectiveness really then comes back to leadership and effective leadership being critical, and then in an organizational sense, making sure that you've got effective structures, processes, and capabilities in the form of both skills and behaviors to meet your business goals. And as you say, that's not typical for businesses that are going through periods of growth or change to start by focusing on their people capabilities, let's say, and their organizational effectiveness.
Yeah, but it's so important because, people make profits. In this, we call it our altered, or some call it a new normal business world. I believe same old won't work, as I said beforehand. Leaders will have to make changes. Now, everyone votes for change, but then nobody puts their hands up to do it. How can business leaders effectively embrace change and embed it quickly, but with humanity?
It's challenging, as you say. The pace of change that's happening to us, and therefore the pace at which we need to operate to make change within our businesses is evident. It's been evident more than ever before. The thing that we often come back to is some certainty, and giving people some sense that what they're moving into is secure and safe, and that they understand it. Now, clearly, there are lots of uncertainties at the moment. What we've been advising our clients, and what we've actually developed some facilitation services around, is helping business leaders reevaluate and hopefully reconfirm and recommunicate their reason for being in business. Like, what's the purpose of the business? Because if nothing else is certain, you would hope that piece can be made certain. And for people who in large ways are having change forced upon them, if they can find the certainty in where they're going, that's going to help them make the change. And I think it goes way beyond just re-establishing your purpose and saying, this is why we're in business, but then working from that through the journey, if you like, of your business to get as much certainty communicated as possible. So if we're going through change, do we know any of the outcomes? Do we know where we're heading? And if we don't, what decisions have we made? So at least be certain about these are the things we have done, we have decided upon. This is why we're deciding upon these things, and acknowledge the fact that some of it is still uncertain. There is still aspects that we don't know, but we can focus on what we can control, and these are those things. I was on a conference the other day, and somebody was saying that just psychologically we accept bad or negative certainty much easier than we accept uncertainty. So even if the outcome doesn't feel like it's going to be well received, if we know it, communicating it actually helps people move forwards.
Yes, yeah, very good thinking, and I like your focus upon purpose. I always know I've got a problem with a company when the CEO says his purpose is to make profits, and
it's difficult, isn't it? I don't know that there's many companies around that aren't trying to make profit. But as you say, if that's your single focus and you can't get away from that, then we've got some trouble ahead, I think.
Yeah. Now, I read a recent blog of yours that was headlined "Goodbye Leadership Development Programs." Now, that almost sounds like shooting yourself in the foot, isn't it? What you're thinking here?
It might sound like shooting ourselves in the foot. I think in your introduction, we're not traditional thinkers. So we are trying to get to a point where we can help businesses be effective. And the blog, as you say, was really about analyzing why leadership development programs, as they have traditionally been run, are less effective or ineffective at doing what they say they do. So the blog in itself was really saying this traditional method of putting an event at the center of leadership development and all that comes with that hasn't had, despite the amount of money plowed into it, hasn't had the desired effect. We're still talking about leadership. We still don't think that's good enough. And so really what I was trying to say is not that leadership development isn't important. Clearly it is. Leadership is critical, as we've said, but the program-based or the traditional element of having events around leadership development has passed us by. I think that's a sort of old way of doing things. We've had somebody join our team recently. He hosted a webinar just yesterday about leadership development and the ingredients of effective leadership development, which we'll go into a lot more detail about our thoughts on that. But that was at the essence, was trying to focus on what we would call mass customization, but really trying to target the specific needs of the business through targeted and practical application-based leadership development, rather than generalized focus on leadership.
Yeah. Okay. Now that leads me on to my next question. Of the 250 plus business leaders, CEOs, etc., from around the world I've interviewed here on BBTV since lockdown started, there's a consensus that there's a need for new leadership skills to manage this new world, but there's no consensus on what those skills that are needed will be. What's your thoughts? Mine says better communication ability is one.
Communication pre-lockdown or post-lockdown. I think communication's been key, arguably increasingly so since we've been in sort of a virtual working world. Our perspective is this: that leadership skills are important in the context of what you're trying to achieve and the context of who you're trying to lead and the environment you're operating in. So to say one particular skill is the most important, again, sort of feeds this notion that leadership is of generalized importance. Yeah. And for us to be really effective, you have to get into understanding what leadership skills are most relevant for your business, knowing who's in your business and how you want to operate and what you're trying to achieve. Having said that, I go back to one of my earlier answers. I think managing what I would call managing vision and purpose, so making sure that that's clearly articulated and understood by your people, is a key forever leadership skill I think we need to keep working on. But as I say, I think I think whilst communication is critical as an overarching skill, it comes in many different forms. So what that really needs to look like is really dependent on the nature of the business and the leaders that you have in your team.
Yeah, I like your thinking. Now, the world is fast shrinking in being able to reach out to almost anywhere. I believe the opportunity to do business all over the world is now even more achievable by businesses of all sizes. But it's not simply a matter of learning to export, is it? You've worked in many countries. What 3 or 4 key cultural differences do you think leaders need to be aware of when they go for market entry into any new country?
I think in part the ease of access, let's say, and partly that's fueled by ever evolving technology, but I think the ease of access is somewhat blurring the challenge of developing meaningful relationships. So in some countries, transacting business might be fairly simple or sort of easy to understand. In other countries, and this stereotypically tends to move sort of west to east, but typically the further east you go, you actually have to invest a lot more in developing relationships before you get to the punchline, if you like, of the business. So I think, again, without sort of generalizing, I think really having a clear idea and a proper understanding as to how business relationships work in a particular cultural environment is important. And I think that also leads on to then how decisions get made and taken. I think in different cultural environments, decision making can be more complex, might involve people and not necessarily in a formal sense. So how you move through decisions that are being made and then getting action out of those decisions is not always the same. It's not always the same, company to company, but it's certainly quite different when you move through different cultures.
Yeah. And don't think just because they speak the same language or supposedly the same language, it's the same culture, as I'm finding out in America at the moment. I want to tap into your talent knowledge. I suggest that too many companies fail to understand succession planning early enough. This then results in either cloning themselves or making a rash decision, which causes the business to lose momentum. Given that, Tale, people make profits and are so important to a business. Why do so many fail to succession plan? Or am I wrong and it's changing?
I think it is changing. I think business leaders are giving more thought to succession planning in advance. So your point about making rash decisions, I have the same observation. Get to the point where you need somebody and then scramble around to try and find. And again, similarly to what you just said, often that's done in a sort of cloning type, I know what's been good so far, so we'll sort of try and find the same person. I think that has changed. I think I've noticed in speaking to people in my sort of sphere, if you like, that there is more thought being given to it. But I think it's complicated, it's difficult. And so I'd share this. I think the way in which succession planning is done, if at all, is often based on the wrong premise. And I think that leads to your point about rash decision making and cloning. It's done on the premise of both what's happened in the past and the business context of the past, and also at an individual level, what somebody's done in the past and their performance, which, as we know from multitude of research, doesn't indicate future performance. How you've tackled something doesn't always lead to your success in the future.
Yeah.
So our suggestion to those business leaders who are engaged in those thoughts is more to do some hard work up front to analyze what the future of the business may look like. And as we go into 2021, now is a good time to be really thinking about what the future of the business is intended to be, and then start to put some specific detail against that in terms of what kind of leadership skills, behaviors, attributes are important for that. And then to be able to assess against those rather than based on, as I say, sort of historical data.
Excellent. Now, before we move on to the next question, I just want to remind viewers and listeners to take down your URL on the screen behind me so they can follow through on this thinking. And for listeners, that URL is blackmore4.co.uk, and Blackmore 4 is spelt with the 4, F-O-U-R, not in full, not the number, blackmore4.co.uk. CX, or customer experience, is vital, but I'm not sure businesses are going about it the right way, especially in this altered world. For example, chatbots seem an ideal way to deliver nothing under the pretense of customer service. Or am I wrong here? What do you think are the hallmarks of an exemplar in good customer service today?
I don't know if there are specific hallmarks. I think when you refer to customer service, and again, this is going to sound thematic from all of my answers, but I think you have to get a better understanding of the people that you're trying to interact with. Customer service, in some people's minds, would mean high touch points, high frequency communication, personalized communication. And if that's your client base, if that's your customer base, then using chatbots is probably not going to serve them well. However, in some consumer minds, in some customer minds, ease of access, speed of response are the hallmarks of great customer service. And in effect, technology can get there much better than people can. I suggest that most of the challenges that come with CX, as you say, and the role of technology in that, is people focus either on the customer or employee or the people, or the technology, and making the technology the best it can be. What we try and do, if we're involved in change management that relates to technology, is actually use our understanding of both to look at the interface, if you like, between technology and people, which is usually where these things go well or don't go well. And if you don't focus on how people interact with their technology, that's typically the source of most of the issues or unraveling, if you like, and the effort required going forward.
Is automation, though, a threat to organizational efficiency? Don't get me wrong. I can see the benefits of good use of technology. We see it every day on my Talking Tech show. But surely somewhere there has to be a failure point by being too reliant on machines. How do you advise clients?
I'd start by clarifying that a lot of our work is focused on effectiveness rather than efficiency, and the two are interlinked. So that's not to say they're entirely different. My definition of efficiency is typically getting the same done with less, or kind of, it's a productivity type of angle. Whereas what we're focused on with growth or businesses going through significant change is either trying to get more done with the same, or what do you need to achieve? What are you trying to achieve, and what do you need to get there? So there's a sort of subtle difference, let's say. I think the challenge is the same. Over-reliance on technology is an issue. And I think it's not that the technology doesn't have efficiency gains or effectiveness gains. I think the implementation of technology, and I go back to that interface between, there's still people in the process somewhere. There are either people providing the content towards the technology to be useful in terms of automation, the content starts somewhere, or they're using the technology through a process. And again, typically the lack of efficiency comes through additional manual work rather than less manual work at fixing the problems that come with poor choice of technology or poor implementation of technology. So I think there are massive efficiency gains to be had through automation and the like. I think there are massive inefficiencies in just the way that a lot of businesses attempt to use some of that technology.
Good comment. Matthew, I like to give all my guests 3 wishes. If I was to give you those 3 wishes for what business leaders could do now to accelerate performance and productivity in our new altered world, what would those 3 wishes be?
I might be cheeky, and given that we're called Blackmore Four, I might even ask for a fourth. Let me sneak the first one in and say, because I've already said, I think re-establishing and re-communicating your reason for being, I think as a business leader now, and anyway, at all times, I think is kind of number one. I would love for business leaders to just get out and re-clarify what it is their business is there for. Let me park that one and maybe take three more. I think defining the leadership capabilities that are important for your business. I think back to what I said earlier, please take some time to really analyze and think through and possibly get some kind of objectivity around what leadership capabilities are important. I would encourage, and we're about to embark on sort of a series of our own content around redesigning organizations, redesigning organization structures for outcomes. So I would encourage business leaders to really creatively and possibly radically redesign how their teams are organized, specifically and deliberately around outcomes. And then the last one, which will make sense to most people, I think, is investing in helping your employees be change ready. I appreciate we're past the post on this for a lot of people, but increase their resilience and increase their change readiness. We're not over change yet. There's more uncertainty to come. So forgive me if that's four. I'll take them.
No, it's okay. Bonuses are fine all the way around there. Bonuses are fine. Matthew Emerson of Blackmore Four, thank you for a very stimulating and thought-provoking interview.
Thank you very much. It's been wonderful to talk to you, Malcolm. Thank you.